We knew going in the week 15 was going to be a pretty wild one, given all of the schedule changes, given all the weird stuff, given players missing due to COVID-19 positives. We talked about that on Thursday about how it was going, or Friday, I guess, about how it was going to be a very odd week. Didn't think it'd be quite as odd as it wound up being. There were some wild performances, some really good teams falling flat, very low scores across the board, and a lot to digest. And unfortunately, in the Sunday night game, a lot of injuries as well. We're going to break those down, the implications of those, and what it all means going forward, and take a look at the Week 16 slate. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by Brandon Gadula. He is the managing editor of numberFire.com. And Brandon, what happened? I have no idea.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I went on this show on Friday, and I said, you know what? All these quarterbacks that we're looking at, I don't care about them. I'm locking in Kyler Murray. What are the odds that Kyler Murray busts against the Lions? I had those odds. They're about 15%, and boy, that was one of the realities that they came through. So I didn't have a particularly good week. I would actually say I had a bad week with Kyler doing virtually nothing. I mean, not a whole lot of upside at quarterback, but that's kind of the case we made every time we get a few stud quarterbacks. And this past week we had Kyler and Josh Allen, and it's like, hey, if these guys don't erupt, then you can get by with saving salary. And even with that, though, like, I don't know who you're paying up for to have big games, because big games came from Gabriel Davis and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So kind of two of our boys going off. Yeah. So, despite that, I still didn't have a good week.
Yeah. Jared on Twitter was tweeting at me about optimals from a different site about like the amount of salary they used. It was a $200 cap. It might be Yahoo, but it was $153 they used. On FanDuel, I checked, and the perfect lineup used $51,500. So left almost $9,000 on the table. You had said on Slack it might not get to $50,000. It barely did, but like not by a whole lot. And I think that like somewhat expected, and like I think that we did a decent job of accounting for the fact that it'd be a weird week. Maybe the one exception was quarterback. I had enough Rodgers where like that did help me quite a bit, but a lot of Kyler. And honestly, like I was thinking about that this morning, like was it variance or was there an oversight by me? And I think the Rodney Hudson being on the COVID list thing, I probably should have cared more about that than I did. And had I considered that, Rodney Hudson's the center for the Cardinals, to be clear. Had I factored that more in, I might have gone more spread out. I think I was about 49% Kyler. I might have gone a bit more evenly distributed, getting more Rodgers. I probably would have wound up more like Allen, which would have been fine. It wasn't like great, but like whatever. So maybe I should have accounted for that. But like I do think there was, I think that was like a slight error in process. So we did a decent job of accounting for like the weirdness. I changed up, flex strategy using more wide receivers in it. I've used it my entire life on a full main slate. Literally, like as long as I've been playing FanDuel since I had the flex, I've never used receiver as often as I did. Probably should have used tight end a couple times in the flex, but I feel okay with how it went. It just like it's hard to account for everything. I also wish Leonard Fournette had not gotten hurt, but we'll talk about that later on. Before we get to that, though, a quick reminder that you can get your weekend tuned up with Thursday Night Football with FanDuel and Captain Morgan, introducing Captain Morgan's Thursday Night Pick'em, a completely free-to-play contest series that gives you 4 chances to win a share of $10,000. Here's how it works. FanDuel fans will have the chance to answer 10 questions centered around both Captain Morgan and that Thursday's NFL matchup. Fans who answer the most questions correctly will be eligible to earn their share of that week's $10,000 cash prize. Thursday Night Football will be here before you know it, so head to FanDuel.com/Captain Morgan NFL and spice up your game day today. Final Thursday night of the week, by the way. So get in for that. Must be 21 plus to participate. For more details, visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel Fantasy app. Eligibility restrictions apply, and don't forget to spice up your game day with Captain Morgan. Also, a quick reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, because we have got NFL, we have got MLB, we have got MLB. What in the world?
I mean,
NHL.
we do, just not currently. At least
I wish we had MLB. I got to like October before I missed it, and I was like, I kind of wish. No, it was November. It was November. I missed it then. Usually, I hate it by September, but then like October, November, I miss it.
I'm gonna clip this so that anytime you're putting in your fourth show of the day and you're feeling a little worn down, I'm just gonna
reminder that you missed it in December. Yeah. I do miss it though, especially if anyway, we have NBA and NHL. Those are the actual sports that are going on right now. PGA back after the new year as well. UFC via Austin Swaim. So a lot of good stuff here on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Make sure you hit subscribe. And also, if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review. Let's dive in now to the Week 15 headliner and talk about those Bucs injuries, because last night the Buccaneers lost all three of Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Leonard Fournette during the game. Knee injury for Godwin. Evans and Fournette were hamstring injuries. Antonio Brown likely back next week for the pass catchers. As for Lenny, Giovanni Bernard is on IR. He was put on there last week, so he's got 2 more games left on IR. Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn effectively split the snaps. That was skewed by the fact they were in a negative script. Jones got the heavier usage. Vaughn seems like he'll be the guy they tend to trust more in the passing game, rightfully so. Jones did have 2 targets, but the evidence says they don't trust him there too much. Also, watching him, I don't blame them. For the pass catchers, Rob Gronkowski had 11 targets among the non-regulars, so Godwin, Fournette, etc. Tyler Johnson was second on the team with 7 targets, but again, it's hard to know how much to dig into that with Antonio Brown being back next week. So we have like 15 questions here. I'm going to ask you all of them. You go with whichever you want. I'll circle back to which ones you don't cover. So no sweat. Okay. How much do we downgrade Tom Brady?
A lot.
Are you trusting the running backs?
No.
Where are we at on Gronk and Brown and the others?
Well, can't lump them all together. Okay, so I'll go with the Brady one first. Downgrade him a lot. Tom Brady is a quarterback whose fantasy value comes from efficiency and passing production, which, yes, every quarterback does, but there's no rushing upside. And he needs that 4 touchdown game for us really to be burned by not rostering him in DFS. You take off all of these playmakers, not just the pass catchers, but I probably call Leonard Fournette a pass catcher because he's
Austin Eckler. He's thick Austin Eckler.
He's just phenomenal. So someone like Tom Brady gets hurt more with something like this than a rushing quarterback. So Tom Brady probably not going to be someone that I can justify getting to. And with we don't look at salaries yet, but with this game being Sunday night, I don't know if they're on the main slate for next week.
They're facing Carolina.
His salary is probably not going to be bumped down.
Yeah.
So he's probably not someone that I will be able to justify. I don't think I'm there with the running backs. Again, taking out relevant players, you're hurting your offense's chance to get into red zone. They didn't actually run any red zone plays last night. I had some spreadsheet reshuffling I had to do due to my data source changing around, and I thought, I got everything, but then I was like, oh no, there's no red zone data populating for the Bucs last night.
There were only 4 red zone plays for either team, offensive plays in the red zone last night. Yeah, it was terrible.
So I'm not there with the running backs. And then as for the pass catchers, presumably I could get to Rob Gronkowski, depending on what tight end looks like. We saw again this week what the value of a stud tight end can really do to separate a lineup. And Rob Gronkowski at times has been kind of like their number 1 receiver. Not saying he's going to operate as that, but we could see pretty steady volume for him. So I'm probably there with Gronk and Antonio Brown, depending on his status. But as far as Brady goes, not quite going to get there, and I don't think I'm chasing the backfield.
I think it sounds like I'm higher on Ronald Jones than you maybe, because I feel like his role has the potential to be similar to mid-season Leonard Fournette. Go ahead.
It has the potential, but we do not know what it will be. And we have an 11 game.
We also don't want to assume that it won't be because, there's a spectrum here where it could be really bad and it could just be a total timeshare with Keyshawn Vaughn. But I think Leonard Fournette, if you look at the games where his snap rate was between like 50 and 7 or 65%, he was at about 25 adjusted opportunities per game, which is carries plus 2x targets. That's passable in daily fantasy, especially if it's a super low salary. They get the Panthers next week. How low would Ronald Jones' salary need to be for you to have a decent level of interest?
I don't think I could. If he was above 6,500, I think I'd have to take a long, hard look. I think around 65 or lower, I would be more open to it. But again, 11 games on the main slate, barring no postponements.
Yeah.
Hard to envision wanting to build around Ronald Jones in that.
What if I told you his salary was $5,400 though?
Okay, so again, that's I wasn't thinking thoroughly here.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I think the other comp you could use is like Jeff Wilson, where like I don't really want to use Jeff Wilson, but if his salary's low enough, I can be okay with it. Like Jeff Wilson's role is very flawed, but it's a lot of early down work, good offense, and I still think the Bucs will be good. They won't be great like they were, but they'll be good.
Jeff Wilson played 89% of the snaps in Week 15. Do you think?
Ronald Jones... but like I'm talking about like workload wise more so, not snap rate. I think 60% is the snap rate.
I mean, I think there's really one running back who I'm willing to overlook snap rate on, and it's Cordero Patterson. And I finally played him this week, and it didn't work out that well
because there were no other backs to use.
Yeah. But at 5,400, it's a completely different ball game. So,
and like they're facing the Panthers, I don't think the Panthers offense can do much here. So like it should be a positive script, or the odds of it being a positive script, I should say, are higher. We'll phrase it that way.
You know the spread in that game yet?
My numbers had it at 12.5, I think, but that was before adding in the Gronk or the Godwin and Evans injuries. So
it's 13.5.
12.8. So I think that's a little heavy given the injuries. If we assume those guys don't play next week, like it is partially
13.5 on the road too. That's crazy.
Do you have any interest in like the side guys here, like Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller? Any of those guys or no?
I'm just going to look here because it's hard to guess the salaries based on the fact that this was the late game, so nobody's going to be adjusted.
Antonio Brown is 7,000. I thought we'd get more of a discount there.
Yeah. So Tyler Johnson's 5,000, Scotty Miller 49, Jalen Darden 46.
Gronk is 67. I say we just use Gronk and Brown at their salaries.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the play unless... when we do a salary scroll or we get more context with running back that we're like, hey, we really need some salary for running backs this week. I'd be more open to Tyler Johnson, but
Johnson would be the highest of the group by a wide margin. He ran 94% of the routes last night, 7 targets.
Yeah.
He's played even when other guys have been active this year. Mm-hmm. So, and he's got some targets in those looks too. So I think Johnson's the highest. I think that Jones is the primary focus this week. We have to, dig in and decide not what his role will be, but like what are the odds he has a role good enough to be viable at $5,400 against Panthers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And I think the last thing to cover is I said I'm low on Tom Brady and I can't imagine using him. Give me a salary for Tom Brady where you think you would want him to be for you to use him in this matchup. Given
the injury, 76.
Yeah. So he's 84 still, which again makes sense within the context of when the slate was published. So,
yep. So let's go through some more injuries here from Week 15, starting off with scary one for Teddy Bridgewater. Carted off in the third quarter. It sounds like it was just a concussion, and I say just, it's a brain injury. But like compared to what it looked like, I think that's I don't know. I'm just glad that Teddy's seemingly okay. But that's his second concussion this year, and that's a bummer. Drew Lock came in. Average 0.12 passing net expected points per dropback. For the full season, Locke is at negative 0.20. He was at negative 0.03 last year as a starter. That's compared to Teddy's season-long mark of 0.18. So pretty big downgrade for this entire offense with Locke being in there versus Teddy. He does launch it, little D-gaffy to a fault. But this is a downgrade. So we were not in on the Broncos offense before, because they spread things out so much. I'm assuming it's not going to get better with this quarterback change.
No, I don't think the market shares will really change based on what we saw. Cortland Sutton had some like good and bad plays. I've just been trying to watch him because he's like kind of a heat check favorite in terms of talent level.
Yeah.
But yeah, Drew Lock's ADOT's 10.1 yards. Teddy's is 8. So that's a pretty substantial gap there. I think the only interest I've had in this offense for weeks now, ever since Jerry Jeudy came back and we saw that he's not really going to be featured any more than anybody else, is just the running backs. And on that note, Javonte Williams did play 58% of the snaps to 42% for Melvin Gordon. So we'd basically kind of seen that like 55-45 split in favor of Javonte. We didn't see that last week. It was about 50-50, but that's about all I could cling to. And with the efficiency downgrade here, I'm probably not going to justify Javonte. So yeah, I don't think I could play any Bronco right now.
It is worth noting Javonte's snap rate did increase a bit this past week. But like, I think that's just because they switched drives and he probably was out there for longer drives than Melvin was, if I had to guess. So I wouldn't reach much into that. They're just not a team that's
they're both 6,300, both running backs. That's not bad.
No, that's better than I thought it'd be, but
against the Raiders,
I'd rather have Ronald Jones than either of them.
Yeah, so I was going to say, we have to guess that Ronald Jones' role to some degree. If you give me
theirs.
But if you give me like, say he's getting a Javonte role with 60% of snaps, within that, it's still going to be a better offense under Tom Brady. Like, and net savings of 900.
Yeah. Yeah, take that. Joe Mixon was limping the entire game in week 15. Then he got rolled up on late. Samaje Perine played 31% of the snaps. If we look at the one game where Mixon was limited, Perine played 62% of the snaps. He had 11 carries and 5 targets, 83 yards from scrimmage in that game. Chris Evans would likely take some passing game work, but I'd feel decent about Perine if Mixon were to miss time. We don't know if he will because we don't know what the status is going forward, but where would you be on this backfield if we assume Joe Mixon can't go in week 16?
That's a tough one. They play Baltimore, and I would assume Baltimore kind of gives them the Bengals another straight game of like low scoring, run heavy. Just kind of taking plays off the board for the Bengals. So it's really hard now not to think specifically with the matchups coming up here. Like I really we got to kind of nitpick because we're going to get more injury news down the stretch. It's just how it works. Teams just kind of sit guys out if they're not in the hunt. But like specifically in that game, I don't think I would want to prioritize Joe Mixon that much anyway. And therefore probably not getting there with Perine now that we know. And I love the way that we do this now because it's like it's like Charlie Bucket peeling off the wrapper on the golden ticket. It's like we get that little bit of information.
Who is Charlie Bucket?
Bud, don't do this to me. Have you ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah, no, I blocked that out. No, that gave me nightmares. It gave me nightmares as a kid. My aunt gave that to me as like a gift when I was like 5. I haven't seen her since. Like I just like traumatizing. A traumatizing movie. That's
a near flawless movie aside from the song that the mom sings.
There's so many flaws with that movie. What do you mean? It's frightening.
It's great. But yeah, like we just peel away like a little bit of information. And we know already now that Ronald Jones is 5,400, but we don't know what the rest of the running backs look like. I don't think I can sit here and anticipate being heavy on Samaje Perine with Ronald Jones sitting there, even though I'm a little bit skeptical on Jones himself.
I would say 63 would be the salary from me on Perine, and he is 62, so they did price him up. So I think that's a good thing because it means I'm less inclined to accept flaws if his salary is higher. So I'm kind of glad they jacked him up a little bit. That makes me happier, at least. So
yeah, I mean he did score.
Yeah, I mean he's a good player. They trust him. Evans, more of like a gadgety type dude, I guess, is the way that I'd phrase it based on the way they used him. So I'm not out at that salary, but it's appropriate is what I would say. And appropriate might not be enough if we get other stuff elsewhere. So
what 43.5 point total. That's tied with 2 other games for the
tight spread lowest. Though, baby. Tight spread. Rondale Moore left with an ankle injury after 20 snaps for the Cardinals. He had a carry and 3 targets at that time. And partially that, but also partially the DeAndre Hopkins injury led to like funneled targets for the Cardinals. Also, just a lot of passing because they were down. We saw Christian Kirk at 12 targets. Zach Ertz had 9. AJ Green at 8. Antoine Wesley at 8. Also, shout out Colt McCoy for getting some final drive targets to Christian Kirk and Zach Ertz. I was distraught when they took out Kyler, but then he put some more targets to Kirk and Ertz. I was like, okay, Colt, we can hang. We can be friends. You get a Christmas card this year. So Rondale might miss time. We know Hopkins is done for the regular season and likely beyond that too. So how are you viewing the pass catchers here on Arizona with Kyler struggling and then the injuries to Hopkins and Moore?
So I don't have the full schedule pulled up for next week. I know
Arizona is not on the main slate. They're facing Indy on Saturday. What do you mean again? They haven't played each other in 4 years.
Bud.
Oh, you mean they're on Saturday again? Yeah, I got you. Sorry. It's a dome. High total, tight spread.
Yeah, I mean, wait. Browns got to play Monday, Saturday.
It's bad.
Aye.
And I don't think have either of their quarterbacks been cleared yet.
I have not seen news, but that doesn't.
Let me Twitter Shefty. Let me look this up. I can't say Google because I'm not Googling it. I'm Twittering it.
So yeah, with regards to the Cardinals here, I was underwhelmed, obviously, with what I saw from Kyler Murray. So I'm going to need you to tell me about some offensive line impact here, and how I should really adjust based on their offensive line situation right now.
Yeah,
but I think that regardless, if Christian Kirk, Zach Ertz are in play for close to double-digit targets, I'm cool with that, and I don't want to overthink this one. It's not like we came out and saw 6-7 targets for those guys.
Yeah.
And if the efficiency is going to be down a bit, then I need that volume, which of course it was surprisingly astonishingly a negative script for them, but I'm still going to be good with Christian Kirk and Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough not to be given that volume, given that it is Kyler. And also, I think I want to see when Rodney Hudson tested positive because that would inform when he could be back. Is there... here we go. Okay, so he was placed in the COVID list on December 16th. So it's been about 4 days. I bet he's back by Saturday. So that'd be a positive because he's very good. Centers matter a lot. And so I'd like him to be back. I think he will be. I think that matters a lot for this offense. So I'd feel pretty confident with them. And I think that Kirk and Ertz, the two standouts here, but also AJ Green, still very relevant. So if people get overconfident and go to just Kirk and Ertz, given what happened this past week, I think that, there's a good spot to get back in AJ Green. Wesley, I'm not as interested in. He ran a ton of routes when Hopkins was out earlier on this year. Didn't do a lot with them. Did get 8 targets here, but I don't care too much. So I think to me, it's those 3. And I feel pretty good about all 3 of them, including AJ Green personally this week.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the backs later, too.
Yeah.
Julio Jones re-injured his hamstring. Even with this, we had 11 different Titans get a target despite 32 pass attempts. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine led with 7 targets. Dontrell Hilliard had more than 4. He's the only other one. He had 6. Anything in this offense that we can not hate is the way I'd phrase it?
I was actually going to call the Titans the Broncos East, but
that's really rude to the Denver Broncos.
But in terms of
at least the Broncos are good when Teddy's in there. Somewhat good.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
In terms of market shares, where because you told all the time about this team's red zone target shares.
They've given 21 people a red zone target. Nobody has more than 9. What is that?
I don't know. But what I was getting at, and the joke's kind of lost now, but Denver's a lot farther east than I think, and Nashville's not exactly east. So they're kind of just both in the middle of the country. But I think the joke still works.
Did you just call Denver the middle of the country?
Look it up. It's a lot closer to the center of the country than you think.
If you are west of South Dakota, you are west. That is the rule. That's
all west.
Gospel.
West Coast.
Yes.
No.
Nebraska. Well, Nebraska's parallel. Yeah. Denver's West Coast. Let's not get this twisted.
Hey, I know your Twitter, and you can Google that and just kind of look, and you'll see what I mean.
No, I was betting the Raiders because I was checking out the Browns quarterback stuff and didn't find anything, so had to get that.
The only other thing I would. Oh wait, we're talking Deontay Foreman later, so.
Yeah, but with the receivers, we don't want any of this despite Julio being out, right?
I don't think you could pay me to roster a Titan.
Yeah, what negatives? How negative would the salary need to be on Cody Hollister or Nick Westbrook-Ikhine if we'd use them? Like if they give you like
1,000.
Okay, give you back 1,000 in salary. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think I can get behind that. Pat Freiermuth exited early with concussion for the Steelers. He had 4 targets on 12 routes. No Steeler had more than 5 targets or 38 receiving yards, so nobody benefited. I used Deontay Johnson, which is very rare for me. He had no targets no catches in either the second or the third quarter. So I hate this team. Najee Harris played every snap, and I think he had like 4 FanDuel points. Can we blast this team into the sun? Is that rude?
I mean, this, like, they didn't even hit 50 plays on offense.
They didn't even come close to 50 plays. The mailman's here.
Yeah, so like I think this offense comes down to whether you're going to play Deontay Johnson or not, and I don't really know if I'm going to get there the rest of the season just based on how.
But they get Kansas City next week, so we have to consider them for bringbacks. Do you include Najee in that discussion?
Do I want a 100% snap rate and about 70 yards with no touchdowns?
I think we you talked about with a running back, the only one you ignore snap rate with is Cordero Patterson. I think Najee should be number 2.
But in like a completely different context.
Correct. Okay, so how low would you need to drop Najee's salary to use him as a bring back option versus Kansas City? He was 88 this week, I think.
He honestly would have to be like 76, I think that's exactly where I'd be as well. And he Najee had 18 rushing yards on 12 carries.
He's $8,400. Why?
Every snap, 17 routes, 5 targets. Wait, did he for real have 26 yards? That's it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
26 yards on 22 adjusted opportunities. That might be the worst yards to adjusted opportunity ratio.
I believe ever. So. Minimum 10? Oh, not minimum 10. Like minimum 15, yes. I think so.
Oh my gosh.
I don't
think it's his fault because their offensive line's bad. It's just disheartening that they drafted him instead of offensive line.
I mean, like, could Betty Snell get 26 yards on 21 adjusted opportunities? Maybe. But again, 45 plays. Maybe that's skewing thing. Maybe that's we can. So when I'm talking myself into them Thursday, I'm going to use that as justification. I just want to give you the heads up that that'll be the case.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to play quite the same type of offense for sure. Like the Titans were willing to take advantage and just run Deontay Foreman and keep Pittsburgh off the field. The Chiefs, actually, from what we saw this week, kind of might be back to the Chiefs of old a little bit, but
that was going to be the headliner until the Bucs stuff happened.
I do want to keep in mind. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Will we?
Yeah, I made a note.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. I didn't check the sheet. Thank you.
No,
okay, we'll talk about them later on. Sterling Shepard tore his Achilles. He is done for the year. Shepard played most of the game before this. It was pretty late on. It might have been the final drive, second to last drive. Saquon Barkley split snaps with Devontae Booker, but did lead the team with 8 targets. Kenny Golladay had 7. So we got a 5-game sample with Golladay playing at least half the snaps, but with no Shepard. It's a decent sample, but like Kadarius Toney's on the COVID list. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he never plays. I don't know. Like, it's a weird situation there. But it's also like probably Mike Glennon or Jake Fromm, so does it matter?
Probably not.
Yeah.
We have the 5 games with Golladay playing half the snaps, but no Shepard. Toney played in 3 of those, not the 2 most recent ones. I don't know if Tony's coming back, so I don't know which sample matters. But even with that, like in the games with Tony, he had a 25% target share. Saquon Barkley was at 17%. Evan Ingram 16%. It's like not a whole lot. Galladay was at 12%. But in the 2 games without Tony, Barkley 21%. So he's the constant here with a good target share. Kenny Galladay 18%, and then Ingram and Slayton at 16%. So like nobody's really benefiting either way.
Yeah.
The one again constant is like Saquon Barkley's got a good target share, but is
Does
the
it
offensive
matter?
expectation enough for him to
Yeah.
score? Like no. So I really
Yeah.
don't know how you justify anyone in this offense right now.
Like Saquon was viable this week as like a volume-based guy when no one was going to get volume. But like on a better slate, you're not touching that. I don't know if we'll get better slates, but like it could be. They're facing Philly next week. That's not the best defense on the planet by any means, but it's still Jake Fromm or Mike Lennon. So it ain't great.
Not great. Let's
move to role changes here from week 15. Alvin Kamara played his first game with Taysom Hill and Mark Ingram, and the role here, mixed bag, I would say. His snap rate went down to 62%. That's bad. He did get 6 targets, and 2 of those were in the red zone. He had 2 out of 4 red zone chances for the Saints. Those were the 2 concerns with Hill were red zone chances and targets, and he got both those, but he lost 9 carries and 2 targets to Mark Ingram, and it's not a great offense. So I'm going to lower Kamara a decent amount as a result of this. What about you?
Yeah, I'm honestly glad they're not on the main slate.
It's a blessing.
Then I don't have to worry about Kamara.
Tennessee's not on the main slate. That's great. Washington not on the main slate. I'll take that. You know, this is good.
Titans not on the main slate.
I already said that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did a gym.
Yeah. How dare you? Cleveland not in the main slate. That's great. Love that.
Honestly, the Packers I don't really like as a main slate team.
How dare you?
I don't have to jam in Jonathan Taylor.
We get Devontae. Want to jam in Jonathan Taylor because he can score points. Unlike the guys, the dudes I used, like he can score points.
Yeah,
it's great.
So, oh my gosh, Washington Dallas is the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
How many interceptable passes are there going to be?
On one side, watch your tongue. Watch your tongue. How dare you? So rude. I think with Kamara, he's not on the main slate, so we can't name that salary. But hypothetically, with this role, he's like a 7,800 type back, probably.
And that's probably if you're still worried about like Kamara being Kamara too. Like a 62% snap rate is like if you took the name out of this and applied it to the offense, like
I think the name matters because the talent matters, which means there's a bit more juice in those carries. Plus, like the offensive line, when healthy is very good. They're not healthy right now either. So
right, I'm saying if you strip away the name value here, the role itself is probably like a 73 or 74. Right. But with Kamara's name, I can see the 78. Yeah.
If you do the opposite. You kind of do the opposite here, where if you look at the role of Devin Singletary, like, oh man, then you remember it's Devin Singletary. Like, okay. So last week we noted Devin Singletary's snap rate in situations to monitor. We got to have a full-on discussion this week because he played 92% of the snaps on Sunday, 22 carries and 1 target, and importantly, he had 5 out of 10 red zone chances for the team. He never gets red zone chances. He scored, and I was like, that's weird. And then he actually had 4 more chances inside the red zone. So that's actually a good role. But also it's still Devin Singletary and still the Bills. So they get New England next week. Name that salary on Devin Singletary, all things considered.
Yeah, all things considered. That should be like the name of this recap show. It's like all things considered, here's where we are. But
yeah.
You, me, and JG Zachariason, we're in Slack all day, just throwing in updates of what we see,
tossing out hot takes about accuracy of certain quarterbacks.
Yeah, but when Devin Singletary scored, I called him Devin Singletary, right? And I was like, oh, that'd be a good name if he ever scored.
No, Singletary is appropriate because he can't get 2. That's not.
I was going to say he's never had 2 in a game.
Never.
So he's maxed out at 1.
Why am I shocked? Yeah, why am I shocked?
I mean, he's got a touchdown in like 4, 6, 8, 9 career games. Not ideal, but it's so tough. You give me this good of a role Like, this is a good role in a good
Yeah.
offense.
Yep.
He can accidentally score, especially if he's going to get some work near the goal line. So I like that, and I don't want to say, oh, he's Devin Singletary. And it's weird. Like, I feel like we should clarify because you and I are typically low on Devin Singletary, like very low on Devin Singletary, compared to consensus seems to be like eager to play Devin Singletary when the role's there, a little more than us.
Like with that week that Zach Moss was in concussion protocol, I was praying he'd pass through, so I wouldn't have to use Devin Singletary. Praying.
Yeah. But I don't. I mean, within this offense, with all the context and whatnot, I think he's probably like a 7,000 back.
I thought about that. That's where I initially was 7,000. I downgraded a bit because I think there's a chance that the lead back rule is not entirely sticky, but that's only like a $200 discount. The 68, I think, is the appropriate salary. You're looking at me as if he's like 5,000.
Not quite 5,000. Somewhere in the middle. Is it 5,800?
Okay, so who do you feel better about? Devin Singletary versus the Patriots or Ronald Jones versus the Panthers?
No, but probably it might. It's about even. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It might be Singletary with the sole fact that the Patriots will probably just try to limit Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs primarily.
Yeah. Well, they might limit their true number one receiver. We can talk about that in a second, but
that's true. But it's about the same. And I just know that Singletary's role has been really good.
I think that's one of the situations where it's close enough where you can kind of judge it based on what people want to do. Like if they want to load up on Ronald Jones, they get overconfident there, go to Devin Singletary. Same thing in the reverse sense. People are done with Ronald Jones, understandably. Then maybe check out all Singletary, or I check out Rojo then. But I think they're both very viable based on the way things set up right now. Speaking of the Bills, first game with no Emmanuel Sanders, their true number one, Gabriel Davis, emerged. He dominated 7 targets, which is tied for second on the team. Don't need to talk about who was first. Davis had 2 out of 3 deep targets. He had 2 out of 5 in the red zone, his third consecutive week with multiple red zone targets, and he converted. So name that salary for Gabriel Davis versus New England.
Boy, I feel like this one is primed for me to be too low and for you to be too high.
95.
What's that?
$9,500.
Okay. So we're looking at that 92% route rate, tons of snaps, 7 targets, the 2 red zone targets, 2 downfield targets, which for me now are 20 plus yards.
You can toggle the air yards, can't you?
No, they changed that.
Oh, okay, good. Good.
But thanks for letting me know that the way that I had done it for 14 weeks was an option.
I was trying to mansplain it to you.
44% air yard share. I'll take that.
Can I give you a comp and you can buy or sell it?
Sure.
Okay, it's not a comp in the way they score it, but their scoring distribution is similar. I think that Gabriel Davis is Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the sense that, like, the floor is not good, but they have a very obvious path to a ceiling and can hit it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. So he'd be like 56, 57, somewhere in there, I think.
Oh, I thought you'd be higher. I was going to say probably like around like 59, 6,000.
That's probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. He is 53, though.
Okay.
So we're going to have value next week.
We will.
And like not bad value between Gabriel Davis, Ronald Jones, Devin Singletary. That's not bad. I think that I feel good about Davis. I do. Like I said, I think that
you're the Bills guy here. Colby is the guy, so I'm getting dinged up. Is he good?
He's fine. He came back in like 2 plays later. Yeah, he's the guy who led with targets, and I decided to omit him.
You don't want a 5-year at ADOT?
Any worry about Stephon Diggs or no?
Yeah, enough that like the way that Stephon Diggs started the season was like, okay, he's not really a true number one, and then he trended toward that a few weeks ago, and now he's really not that again. And I had a hard time by Sunday really ranking him above Devontae Adams. Right. We lost Cooper Kupp on the main slate. So when I had salary to allocate at receiver, it primarily went to Devontae Adams because I knew that the target share would be there. With Diggs, it can be there, but it's really not concentrated on him, and that's just the way that this offense plays. And that's one of the key pieces of information that you should be willing to use is here's what these teams do, not what you think they should do. And so with Diggs right now, it's fine, but it's not great.
Yeah. I think so. If we have Davis around 6,000, Diggs should be around 74. Is
75.
that the appropriate gap? Okay. That's fair. So in actual salaries, Davis is the better bargain, but Diggs' salary is appropriate. So I think that works. Patriots, a very good team. And that we should keep that in mind too. But
Diggs had 51 yards and 7 targets against them.
That was the win game, though.
Yeah.
So to keep that in mind too. Okay, let's talk about Duke Johnson. He started for the Dolphins and did a lot. He was just signed to the active roster now today because he played so well. They signed him to the active roster. He was in the practice squad before. 22 carries on the targets. Myles Gaskin, 10 carries on a 36% snap rate. This happened after Gaskin was activated from the COVID list on Friday. Brian Flores said Friday they may decide to ride the guys who were in practice that week, and they did. So he said this could happen. It did. Problem for Gaskin is like, you can be like, oh, okay, he didn't practice, so you can write it off. But like, I think Gaskin's been underwhelming enough and Duke was good enough where I don't think it's going to go back to the old role. So where are you out of this backfield right now with the information we currently have?
I think that like someone like Gaskin's just out.
Yeah.
Until
we get reason to think otherwise. Yeah.
With Duke Johnson, we got to keep in mind, it was a good workload. It wasn't phenomenal with the 24 adjusted opportunities, 58% snap rate. Good red zone role, though. All 5 red zone carries. That's something that you can't write off, and he had the 2 touchdowns. So you got to now apply this to the game upcoming, and they play
New Orleans on Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not on the main slate, but if that game were on the main slate, I think that adjusting for the efficiency there, I would not chase Duke Johnson. I don't think that the amount of red zone trips and just overall efficiency would be there to chase him heavily.
Yeah.
Unless
he massive difference in matchup going from the Jets to the Saints. That's brutal.
Yes, I believe that that's how I would view it. But again, who could say, because this game's not on the main slate, so we truly don't know.
Another blessing. Let's look at this main slate breaking in our favor. I love it.
Although that honestly might be one of those spots where I don't believe in the role enough. Where if he were on the main slate, I would actually prefer it because I don't think I'd play him, and I think other people would just take the assumed volume and not adjust enough for the matchup because the Saints are really an outlier matchup.
Basically, Myles Gaskin in week 15. You're kind of happy that he's on the main slate because people might use him more so than they should. You're a little overconfident,
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Yeah. Jeff Wilson, you mentioned him before. His snap rate shot way up this week. It was 89%. His previous high this year was 59%. He had 21 carries and 2 targets, turned that into $119 in yards from scrimmage. Did lose a short touchdown to Deebo Samuel. Red zone share for Wilson was 27%, which is underwhelming, but it's still an improvement. So do you buy this rule sticking for Wilson if Eli Mitchell misses more time, or was it a one-game fluke?
I think that we've seen in the past that they want to get him involved whenever he's healthy. He's just not always healthy. And Eli Mitchell did not practice at all this past week. He's dealing both of the concussion and the knee injury.
It sounds like the knee is the bigger concern right now.
Yeah. It sounds like he's not really close to returning, which is bad news bears for your boy in some season-long spots. But
a lot of B's. B's for Brandon.
Yeah. But yeah, you can't really look at that snap rate and that workload. And yes, he's going to have goal line issues, but I know I just talked about season long. Like, I feel like he's if you have him in season long, just plug him in and you're fine. But this is not like, we're not talking season long. We got to adjust for the idea that he doesn't convert on any goal line touches because they do spread the ball around near the goal line. And I know he had the 2 targets, but historically not much of a receiving threat, although he did run 75% of the routes, 18. That's the most promising thing to me, I think, because we're never going to find him get 80% of the red zone work with Deebo. Now So I think it's good. There are a little bit of concerns, but it's going to depend on the full context of the running back slate for week 16. So
Well, he's not on the main slate, so that's good.
But it's too many. Yeah. If you were on the main slate, what are your thoughts on Jeff Wilson?
7,000? Is that too low?
No, I think that's about right. It accounts for everything.
Yeah.
Although again, against the Titans, if that was on the main slate, I'd be a little bit hesitant just because the Titans want to kind of
weirdly similar to like Devin Singletary, where like the role right now is very good. I'm not entirely sure it'll stick, and there are scoring concerns / upside concerns because like Josh Allen is Debo in this scenario. Yeah, so I think they're pretty similar.
And some, just like target share concerns too.
Yeah, yep.
I think people like really think Devin Singletary gets a ton of like passing work, but that just might be a misconception.
Because he's not a good runner, so they assume he has to be good at something. You know who is in the main slate next week, Brandon?
I honestly don't at this point. I don't know who
James Robinson is. Okay. We'll need to see what he does with Carlos Hyde to consider this like a true role change, but building blocks are there for Robinson to continue seeing work. He had 18 of 19 running back carries and 6 out of 8 running back targets this week. He played 83% of the Jaguar snaps. So where are we at on James Robinson entering matchup with the Jets in week 16?
Yeah, he's going to be a sort of core level assumption play with no Carlos Hyde in that spot. Let me pull up the implied team totals here.
He had 30 adjusted opportunities. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Wow. They are underdogs.
I mean, they just lost to the Texans. So
it's just like you think Jets, you're like, okay, but then you remember it's still the Jaguars. So
let me see here. A second.
42 point. Wow. Slate low implied team total, or sorry, over.
My numbers make that 1.97 in favor of the Jets, so it's pretty efficient.
This could be one of those spots where we get a little out over the skis with the, like, we love the workload, and I think people really are rallying around James Robinson for kind of being done a little dirty this year. But, he got to 16.3 FanDuel points with a touchdown. If they just don't happen to score next week or someone else kind of punches one in.
Yeah.
That's the main concern for me.
Yeah. So name that salary on James Robinson, given that it's still a bad team, but the role is getting better.
Yeah. So he was 63, right?
Yeah.
I'd go. It's so hard to blend the role with this offense. I'm going to say, I'll say 74.
I was say 75. Love it. 82. Wow. Okay.
That's a rough one.
Did not expect that. The role is worth 82, and it's a good matchup, but the team is still bad. So, like, I think if Hyde is back, there is leeway to be wary at that salary. If Hyde is still out, maybe you just take the 80% snap rate against the Jets.
Yeah, that'll depend on the state of running back overall.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked Najee. I'd still.
Yeah, Najee or Robinson.
Oh my gosh. Najee against the Chiefs, Robinson against the Jets, virtually same salary. Don't make me pick.
I mean, I'd pick Robinson pretty easily.
I think I'd pick Robinson too.
We put them around the same salary, but I just feel better at Robinson, I guess. Maybe I should have been lower on Najee. I don't know. It's high, but justifiably, it's just a little too high, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Deontay Foreman snap rate in week 15 wasn't great, but everything else was. He played 31 snaps, so 40%, but 22 carries and 3 targets. So 28 adjust opportunities in 31 snaps. Weird. We always love a good snap rate, but is that type of per snap usage enough for you to consider Foreman in this offense?
It's very clear that they want to like keep the ball on the ground, and
I don't blame them.
Grind clock, yes. So it's different, right? Like it's not your grandpa's 40% snap rate. But like it's hard to know. He gets red zone work. He had 50% of the red zone carries this week. Just 20% of the overall opportunities, though. It's not as good. But with everything, like it's a pretty strong role. He's not a bad runner. I know he got dinged up a good bit, but like
I thought he was done. He was like on the like field, like it looked like he was in a lot of pain, and he's back in like 2 plays later. I look like a dummy because I tweeted about it, and I was like, oh, so he's cool. All right. Fun.
So like, okay, so he had what 14 and a half FanDuel points. I know this one. I remember they're not on the main slate, but still, 14 and a half FanDuel points. My expected FanDuel points model had him at 21.1. Again, 3 red zone carries, just no touchdowns. Like you give him a touchdown there, he got to 20 FanDuel points, and like you can't play that game, but like,
no, yeah, I think you can.
It's
all about paths.
Yeah, and that path is there because he had the red zone work in addition to the yardage and the just insane workload, even on the limited snaps. So if he were on the main slate, I would consider him, assuming the salary's low, which it probably would be.
Yeah.
So
I'm much more open to him than I was.
Yeah.
Just like that, like, because like I think they still like McNichols, and Dontrell Hillier's played well enough to do some stuff, but like they're probably going to be running a lot. And I think that's enough to change things here for sure. James Conner in the first game with Chase Edmonds back did lose decent amount of work. Conner played 43% of the snaps, and they lost to the Lions. Edmonds played 40%. Conner had a much better snap rate earlier on. I think it was like 56% to like 36% or something like that. He didn't get a lot of work. Conner had 2 carries on target in the first half. Edmonds had a carry with no targets, but Edmonds looked good in the second half. Like he had some big runs. So we do have 1 game of data on them now. I'm guessing it'll be a split. I think that split, like if we're talking about like a seesaw, I think if it were like this before with Edmonds, I think it's probably going to tilt this way with Conner now. Where like Edmonds had the slightly better role previously. Conner made a slightly better role now. What do you think about that?
Is Conner on the low end because his workload's heavier, or is he elevated because it's like a status thing? This is crucial.
It's a great question. I think he's elevated because status. He's being elevated.
It was a status seesaw.
Lifted by the hand of Cliff.
Okay. So this is going to be like your classic 1A, 1B situation, which we typically try to avoid. At least for me, that's how I see it. Like a 55, maybe 60-40 kind of thing. That's not generally enough for me unless the salaries come down and the matchup's good, which it very easily could be within this offense. But what's the difference for you with like a James Conner versus an Aaron Jones right now? Aaron Jones' role got better. I should probably preface that, but
a little bit. Like his snap rate got better. His role was still kind of similar.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that like,
do you think you'll play either of these guys?
Probably not.
I don't think so either.
Because like in a vacuum, I'd be more likely to play Edmonds because he gets passing game work.
Yeah.
But like,
and we're not doing Saturday stuff, but like, let's say, we're given 2 game advice for the Saturday slate playing the Colts. You got to pick one. It's Conner, right?
Yeah. Because he'll get the touchdowns, and I think that he'll get more overall work now. Yeah. So
all right.
I'd agree. It's just disappointing. Conner was good. Edmonds would be good if he had the full role. Devonta Friedman also lost some work on Sunday. He had fewer carries than Latavius Murray, despite outsnapping him. Also had just one carry, or one target compared to Murray's 3. So we had talked to Devonta the past couple weeks, at least being open to him. I think we can cross that off now, right?
Yeah, kind of hurt your boy this week. I
Hey,
finally was like,
oh, you. I think it was like, my boy. I got you.
Yeah,
you're my boy.
Yeah,
I got you.
You got to keep up with the lingo. I know it's pretty complex, but yeah, snap rate fallen from around 68% to 57%. Just wasn't really given that good workload that he had, so he's off the list.
Okay, let's dive into situations to monitor. Other stuff you noted during the day on Sunday. One of them we discussed in passing was Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon. What did you see there?
Yeah, so Aaron Jones played 64% of the snaps this week. That was up from around 45% in each of his 3 prior games. He's probably the clear 1A again, but it's really not enough for me. And we see AJ Dillon have a red zone role, goal line role. So that's just, it's not enough even within this offense for me to want to play Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon, provided that they're both healthy. So kind of out on them. I keep tracking Mike Williams' usage. He had a 24% target share on Thursday. That's the first time he's been over 20% since week 5. Now he's at 20% in all 3 of his past games. I know Rose is trying to call me out. I said over 20%. It was 20% flat the 2 games before this week. So it's like kind of better, but it's still capped in that like low 20s range right now. Now he's very good, but I'm higher on him than I was during the midseason lull, but I'm not fully back in.
Okay. Counterpoint.
Okay.
The Chargers are actually throwing deep now, which increases the upside of the entire offense.
I'm higher on him than I was, but I'm still not fully in.
They're on the main slate. They get Houston next week.
All right, I'm in. You sold me.
Yeah.
Give me a salary for Mike Williams then.
Well, I just lost Neckers and got sad, so I don't know. Whatever. Mike Will, I would say his salary or his workload is worth about 7,000 right now.
I was probably gonna say 71. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see what it is. Mike, 66. Probably Mike Williams week.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably. I think that works. Okay, continue.
So I made this note with the assumption that we'll need value. We kind of have some value opening up already, but Marquez Callaway might have emerged as the Saints number 1. 86% route rate. That was the only mark above 66%. Had 9 targets, which was 36%. 43% of the air yards. Just kind of really was the guy this week. So it's a 1-week sample, but it's at least worth noting that it might be a role change. And again, we're looking at situations to monitor. That's the Patriots still don't have a 100-yard game from a pass catcher this year. Just kind of wanted to throw that out there as a reminder that there's no upside within this offense. And just because I got a few questions on the Thursday Q&A for specifically the Thursday game, but like about Mecole Hardman, he's very dusty right now. He's running behind Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson. So just a note, if you want to like play the Chiefs, Mecole Hardman is not really in the conversation anymore.
And you should want to play the Chiefs because they looked really good. Let's talk about Clyde Edwards-Elaire quickly because his snap rate spiked this past week. He played 69% of the snaps. That was his highest since week 1. The problem is that he still lost a lot of work in the red zone. He had 1 out of 18 opportunities inside the red zone. He also played just 39% of the snaps. I know 18 is a lot. So the snap rate was
half the plays the Steelers ran.
I think there was something that had like 23 plays in the red zone this week. Was it the Chargers? It might have been the Chargers, actually.
Might have been.
I think they ran like 23 red zone plays. It's absurd. So let's talk CEH very briefly. He played in the 2-minute drill, which he doesn't typically do. That was good. High snap rate, bad red zone roll, improving team. Where are you at on him right now?
I'm going to throw it back to you quickly. Explain the difference to me between Clyde Edwards-Elaire and Devin Singletary. Good offense, questionable scoring potential.
I think Devin Singletary's role is better. That's the difference.
Yes. So like comparable, but Singletary's like CEH plus right now with the role. Is that accurate-ish?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, he's kind of like what CH would be if Darrell Williams were out.
Yeah.
I think.
So it's going to be hard for me to go too high on CEH, but I think people also overreact to the results with him specifically. He kind of gets a bad go of it, but it's fine.
It is what it is. Okay, Michael Carter caught some buzz this week coming off IR, especially with Ty Johnson being inactive, but the role was underwhelming. He played 54% of the snaps and split work with Tevin Coleman. It's a bad offense. He needs a better role to be DFS relevant. They do get the Jags next week. It's a great spot, but like the paths to failure here, very, very obvious. Brandon gives it a thumbs down. So I think that answers that. Also, in case Lamar Jackson misses more time, Tyler Huntley played well. He funneled usage to Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. He could be terrible, but if he funneled work to just two guys, I'd ignore him. So Tyler Huntley, king him, give him a crown, knight him. Sir Tyler Huntley funnily worked Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. So for future reference, if Huntley gets work again, 13 carries, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns, we can go back to this offense for sure. Okay, let's go to
speaking of those Ravens.
Back to situations to monitor. There we go.
I pulled up the red zone plays for this week. The Chargers ran 29. The Ravens 25.
Okay.
The Falcons 21.
How?
I don't know.
They scored 13 points.
They were down there a lot because I had a lot of Cordero. I needed Kyle Pitts and season long. I was pretty.
I was so excited when Cordero scored. He didn't reach 6.5 points. He had 6.5 after the touchdown. After it got taken away, he never got back above anywhere close to that, I don't think.
And then the Titans also 18 red zone plays, same as the Chiefs. They ran like 80 plays.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, philosophical changes. Not really a philosophical change, but the Lions have philosophically decided to be good on offense. Since Josh Reynolds joined the team, Jared Goff is a 0.21 passing net expected points per dropback. Awesome. He was at negative 0.06 before that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, your boy, got to 90 yards on Sunday. Craig Reynolds went for a $117 on 28 adjusted opportunities. DeAndre Swift might be back next week, but hasn't practiced yet. So Josh Reynolds, I'm assuming Craig's, I don't know, brother. I don't know. They're both Reynolds. Should we actually start to consider this offense when stacking the other side? Are they good enough where we can actually do that now?
Well, I don't know if we're going to stack the other side next week, but they do play the Falcons in Atlanta. So
no.
Imagine trying to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds in a dome.
I mean, the Cardinals couldn't.
Can't be done.
Oh, no. It's going to be like, can you imagine how...
This is going to be, I think, this is going to be a game where we look at it and we say, I don't think there's enough. But the Sunday Million winning lineup is going to have like 3 players.
Russell Gage with Amon-Ra St. Brown. 8 out of like 6. The sum of their ADOTs will be 6. And they're both going to go for like 140 yards.
6.
Yeah. Both going to go for a $140.
It honestly feels like it's going to be one of those where it's like, yeah, Russell Gage or I won't even say Kyle Pitts because I don't think he's allowed to like surpass 30 yards or get a touchdown anymore. But that game probably is not as bad as it seems. Like based on a glance of the offenses.
Yeah, I mean,
give me a salary on the guys you mentioned in like quick succession.
Okay, so Amon-Ra St. Brown 6,000.
Okay, he is 65. Finally getting some respect.
Too much. Josh Reynolds 57.
54.
Okay. Craig Reynolds, if we assume there's no Swift, honestly, like 65.
He's 6,000. So
okay, fair enough. Jared Goff 96.
He's 10-4.
Okay, well,
he's 71. I don't think I can get to Jared Goff.
No, I'm not doing that either. But yeah, the Lions are actually in play. It's fun. They're a fun team. Isn't it weird that they're a fun team and the rest of the teams stink?
Yeah, like yeah.
I don't know.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I'm just glad my guy's getting some. You've turned yourself around on Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's got 12, 12, and 11 targets in his past 3 games.
He produced so well, you would have thought that I called him a fake player this week. I didn't, but he still somehow produced. Usually when I call people fake, they come through. I didn't go that far with him. I think I called Brandon Cooks fake this week, and he scored twice.
Oh my gosh! You better scale those back, but
do I? If I cared about accuracy, I would. But like,
well, I was actually going to say, like, that's part of why I love doing this show. It's like we're really trying to dig into like recent changes, and then if I'm looking at full season data, I'm not going to notice like Amon-Ra St. Brown's targets going up a lot.
Right.
But
speaking of fake players, Carson Wentz didn't do a whole lot on Saturday. It could have been game plan specific, but the Colts seemed like they were trying to hide him. They had 4 passes to 17 runs early downs in the first half. They are a team that will shift things based on their opponents. So they could shift back. And we know that Jonathan Taylor is great. He played 98% of the snaps. But I think it means we can probably lower Michael Pittman a good amount unless they are facing a team that encourages you to throw. Buy or sell that statement.
I buy that. I don't even know if I'd get there in like the right spot, because there's another good example of, or like another good reminder of what, like, matchups matter to a degree, but just because we notice as like fantasy players, like good matchups and the funnel matchups and stuff, that does not mean that coaches are going to see the same thing. Or
Frank Reich does. We saw him the way he attacked the Bucs. They did throw a lot in there. So he does. But for the most part, correct. You're right.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'd even get there in certain spots with Pittman. I think this offense is just Jack Doyle, honestly.
I heard the J and I got drawn in. I wish it were just Mo Alley Cox. That'd make things a lot better. It'd be great. One-Eyed Jack on Twitter or on YouTube reminded us we did say Laviska Shenault is fake, and he is still fake. So at least we got that. Kudos to us. How high is too high for Jonathan Taylor's salary with now a 98% snap rate? Can they make it too high? Like 12,000, you still consider him, right?
Depends on the value, but I think realistically, like, not even joking, 11,000 is probably like reasonable.
I haven't checked out the Saturday slate for next week yet because I haven't finished the Monday or the Tuesday slate for this week.
It might not even be up because the Browns play in two days after today.
That's very true. Okay, the Chiefs on Thursday threw a lot. The Chargers typically encourage you to run against them, but the Chiefs threw it a lot. They had a 73% non-garbage time pass rate and an 11% downfield pass rate. So it seemed like they were adjusting. And Brandon, I think that, like, to me, this was the most encouraging offensive game they've had all year, because the Raiders play a very specific style of defense. Don't have the personnel to play like that too high stuff. The Chargers are like the too high team. I know Derwin James got hurt during the game, so personnel wise, they weren't up to like full health, but like that's their thing. And the Chiefs look good. And they did it via Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, like, running past dudes in the year 2021. What? Like, I thought that was their most encouraging game all year on offense. What about you?
Yeah. I saw, this is weird. Thursday night is my pickup basketball night, and it was cookie decorating night when I got back. So I had this game DVR'd for a long time. So I actually saw the data for this game before I watched it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. Like, the Chiefs are back. Like, I saw the Tyreek Hill, the Travis Kelce numbers. I was like watching that game, and it was like the end of the third quarter, and Patrick Mahomes had like 200 yards and no touchdowns. And I was like, okay, very clearly they have a great, end to the game. But with like the traits were there for it to be really promising, but like the results kind of didn't come through till the very end. And that's the one thing holding me back a little bit of just saying, like, yeah, I'm all in on the Chiefs, but I'm probably back all in on the Chiefs anyway.
There we go. That's the Brandon I was hoping for. Chiefs back. Guaranteed Super Bowl champions, right?
I'm not going to make that guarantee.
Okay, well,
I'm still a little bitter because Chris Conley no longer
got this
plays
here,
for
just
them.
waiting for we can put some stuff in while we're here. But anyway, the Jaguars were still run heavy without Urban Meyer. Their early down first half pass rate with Urban Meyer was 53%. In week 15 with him gone, it was 42%. They had 10 passes to 14 rushes, so still very run heavy. I'm guessing people will find a way to Marvin Jones this upcoming week, because if it's the Jets, there's the narrative of, oh, Urban's gone, Marvin Jones hated him, blah, 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 blah. But like, what does he have this week?
Is that how consensus sounds to you?
Maybe. LaVisca had 7 targets, and I didn't remember, like, he is fake.
7 for 39. Well, Marvin Jones had 4 for 14, so.
Yeah, like, even against the Jets, Laquan Treadwell had 9. Even against the Jets, I don't really want to go at anybody in this passing offense. Is that wrong?
No, I think it's fair with such a low pass rate. So I have non-garbage time data. So that's when your pre-snap win probability is between 20 and 80%. They had 35 plays that qualified passes and rushes this week. None of them were downfield passes, according to my data.
Yeah, they had 2 total for the entire game.
So the downfield passes came, whenever they were trailing. So that's
Mac
not
Jones style. Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, same quarterback.
Not a whole lot of shotgun. So I don't know if we look at this and say philosophically they're going to be different. The thing you can kind of bank on or hope for is an increase in efficiency. But if they really wanted to change what they had been doing, you would think they would have done it right away against the Texans, but they didn't.
I mean, the Texans are too good. I think that's the issue here. Chris Conley had 4 targets.
Well, revenge game, yeah.
Oh, Chris Conley revenge game. You're right. I didn't think about that. Wow. Good call. Why didn't we talk about that before? We should have. You should have mentioned.
I don't want to give out. I don't give out all the tips, man.
Fair enough.
I got to make sure people aren't taking advantage of the
Conley revenge narrative.
2 of 4 for 14 yards.
Yeah, man, you can't let those secrets out. Okay, let's go to the salary scroll for the Week 16 main slate. Starting off at quarterback, shout out as you see stuff.
Mahomes back on top at 87, over Josh Allen at 85.
Matthew Stafford is $7,900. High total, tight spread versus the Vikings in Minnesota. They're both in a dome, so it doesn't really matter.
He knows a bit about playing the Vikings, though.
He does. He does indeed.
Tyler Huntley's up to 75.
He was the highest scoring quarterback of the week.
No, I'm saying
yeah.
I don't know if I'll get there. Tyler Huntley or Russ, straight up 75 each.
Don't make me answer.
What a world.
Jared Goff and Joe Burrow are the same salary. That's upsetting. Burrow's actually not totally off the map against the Ravens, given their injuries.
And to clarify, that's both 7,100. But as I scroll, it's looking similar to this past week, where nobody in the 7,000 range is really jumping off the page to me.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm going to probably look for ways to get to Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Yeah. And Justin Herbert, I would say at 84 against the Texans as well.
Don't ask me why I'm looking at this, but Zack Wilson has a rushing touchdown in 3 of the past 4 games. It's weird. Drew Lock is 66. There you go.
Oh, so it's Zack Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence. So it's kind of a pseudo revenge game for Zack Wilson.
Yeah, how dare you take Trevor Lawrence over me, you monsters. I love it. This is good. Let's get both of their passing efficiency numbers up this week. That'd be great. Yeah, I think Stafford's in play. Depending on Hurts, his status, how he looks on Tuesday, he could be an option. But Herbert.
I do think I'll end up downgrading the teams that play Tuesday, though.
Probably fair. You want to go to running back?
Yeah, it's like another boring week where I feel like I'm going to need to allocate salary at quarterback.
But I think I'm more inclined to allocate salary at running back this week because we have Austin Eckler and Dalvin Cook at the top, and those are a lot more appealing than Najee Harris and Joe Mixon.
Yes.
A lot more appealing.
Yes.
Dow was 88, Eckler 94. So Eckler's role this week was tainted by the fact that he was hurt. Yeah. So I wouldn't put any value in that, but I think I'd rather have Dow over Eckler regardless, straight up.
I might not, given the matchup here with Eckler against the Texans.
It's Dalv.
We'll have, 10 days since playing Thursday to get rested up.
You're right.
His role was still good, even
You're
being
right.
like scaled back a bit.
Fine. Okay.
Okay. No Najee for me, really, unless I'm game stacking. But
it's so easy to cross him off seeing these guys.
I'll see what Deontay's salary is, but that might be the only way I can bring him back.
Yeah.
James Robinson, 82. I don't think I can do that very often.
No. It's really high. Really high. Josh Jacobs had a pretty good role recently. I do want to see what the Raiders offense looks like on Monday. But $6,800 for a guy getting his target load is actually like not terrible, weirdly. I don't know.
Yeah, he's 68. You got to make sure we're naming some.
Sorry, you're right.
Well, the one thing that jumps out to me too is like we have James Robinson at 82, and then Fournette, Swift, and Joe Mixon are the guys between 72 and 82. So we might actually have a drop off between 82 and 72.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Mixon will play, but like,
yeah,
that could be pretty substantial, and that could not artificially. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but that could inflate James Robinson's roster rate.
It could also inflate Cordero Patterson's at the top end of that second rate to $7,200 against the Lions.
I do like Cordero enough though. Saquon 7,000 with the good target shares, but I'm not going to get there myself.
Yeah. Let's see.
CH 65 is still good. I don't know if we actually named his salary, but
we didn't. Yeah. Rashad Penny 61. Depending on if he has a decent role on Tuesday, I could talk myself into that potentially. But I think the primary ones are still the guys talked about before. Devin Singletary $5,800. Ronald Jones at 54. I think both those are very, very enticing.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll get another week without Damian Harris.
If
it matters.
I think it does. I think that Stevenson, like against the Bills, I bet they would lean pretty heavily on him. So if Harris is out again, I think that Stevenson at 59 would be in play for sure.
Like a pivot away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think 45% snap rate.
They were down the whole game, so it did skew towards Bolden. It encouraged Bolden usage. So I think that like there's paths to paying off there for sure. Okay. Receiver?
Yeah, that's probably it. At running back.
Receiver is so much better this week too. Well, again, assuming games don't get postponed and stuff. But like Cooper Kupp is 98. Fair. Tyreek Hill 87.
Gosh.
Justin Jefferson 84.
98?
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean, like he's got like from a scoring distribution perspective, he's been like Christian McCaffrey. So like why not?
I guess, yeah.
It's high, but I get it. Jefferson at 84, if Thielen is out again, could be pretty decent.
Yeah. Jefferson or Dalv?
Dalv.
Yeah.
Just because I just prefer running backs. So Deontay is at 74 in that game stack with the Chiefs. High, little high.
High, but if we do get, just confirmation of the value backs being relevant, that can help with those game stack specific lineups.
Hunter Renfrow is 71. Are you kidding me?
What's that? Hunter
Renfrow is $7,100.
Hunter Renfrow or Jamar Chase, straight up, same salary.
Go home. Antonio Brown with those other guys out of 7,000. I think that's actually a pretty enticing salary. DK is 67. DK Metcalf. The 6,000 range might be back.
It looks to be back.
Because you got Mike Williams at 66, Odell at 66, T is 65 against a Baltimore defense that has no secondary.
Yeah, so absolutely Russell Gage at 6,700 is going to be in the Sunday Million winning lineup.
I hate it. It
absolutely going to happen.
I hate it.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown, that stack, that over-salaried stack is going to be. Oh, DJ Moore, 6,400, my boy.
I think the whole Panthers team is fake.
He's been
Prove to me they exist. You can't.
He's got. So okay, we want to give Amon-Ra St. Brown props for 3 straight games with double-digit targets. DJ Moore has 10, 10, and 11.
What does he do? He had 100 yards once, right?
That's 100 yards, 84, 48. Just no touchdowns, but if I'm not mistaken, he got some overthrows, which I don't know if that'll fix itself. But you know, Marquise Brown's down to 64. Receiver's kind of loaded.
Yeah.
Although receiver is loaded, but it could also be a little bit of a trap where like the market shares for these guys aren't necessarily quite great, but the name value is kind of there. So
why are LaVisca Chenault and Josh Reynolds the same salary? This is offensive to Josh Reynolds. As Josh Reynolds' agent, I am outraged.
KJ Osborne 6,000 if there's no Thielen in a game that we'll probably want to stack up. His role's been good without Thielen.
Gabe the Babe Davis, $5,300. I think that's it's going to be tough to turn down. Like using Gabe Davis, Rojo, stuff like that, Singletary to get up to Dalvin, Eckler, et cetera, Cup, Hill, Jefferson. I think it's shaping up to me to be a stars and scrubs type of week.
Yeah, most likely. However, I will probably want to limit how many of the quote unquote scrubs I put into a single lineup. I don't know if I want to put like all 3 or 4 into a lineup to like max out the top end.
I know there's like I don't want no scrubs. I want all the scrubs. The scrubs.
The star scrub lineup makes sense, and that's absolutely why the mid-range Lions Falcon stack's going to hit. I can already feel it.
Yeah,
just pre-tilting.
Yeah. Okay, tight end.
Tight end.
Yeah. Andrews is 8,000. Kelsey is 78, but Gronk is 67. I love Andrews, love Kelsey. I don't think the gap between them and Gronk should be as big as it is.
Probably not. I think Andrews at 8,000 is totally justifiable.
Absolutely.
Then we're down to Dawson Knox at 61. Hunter 2-touchdown Hunter Henry 2-touchdown guy. Almost called him Hunter Renfrow. He's 6,000, but I'm not getting there.
Okay. Wow, tight end drops off.
Kyle Pitts, buddy, 59. Give me something ever
against the Lions. Oh man, he's gonna be chalk again, isn't he?
He hasn't had double-digit FanDuel points in 2, 4, 6.
He's had 77, 61 yards the past 2 weeks. That's not terrible. Although they're like not allowed to throw him the ball into the red zone, so I think he'd have to score from like a while out.
Yeah, no, he's got 1 touchdown this year.
When was that one? Like, I'm shocked he has one.
Like week 5. Might have been the London game whenever he actually like got the ball.
Is that the Jets? That was the Dolphins, right? That was the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah.
No, the Dolphins played the Falcons in Miami. So it was the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Jets. And then he had 163 against the Dolphins. You're like, all right, now he's here to stay. And then
where they just like shredded down the field the entire drive on the final drive to win that game. Dolphins still covered though. That's all that matters.
He had 3 red zone targets this week.
Prove it.
This could be a Kyle Pitts week.
Prove it. Might be. I like how we start this off like, buddy, you're down to 59. Like, it's Kyle Pitts week by the end. Okay.
I don't think I'm going to punt at tight end.
I think you use the stars and scrubs to get up to Kelsey, Andrews, Gronk.
Pitts. I think Pitts might be the lowest I go.
Potentially. I can't, like, James O'Shaughnessy is 53. Why is that? Why? Who is out here using James O'Shaughnessy? He had 60 yards this week. Who is the moron now, Jim? Cool. Yeah, I got nothing.
Maybe Jared Cook.
I was going to say that too.
51.
He had 4 red zone targets against the Giants, that game where Keenan was out. So maybe. I don't know. Defense. I'll just do defense quick.
I don't do defense.
I wasn't like jokingly suggest the Panthers, but they're playing at a 1 p.m. game, which means Tom Brady will be fully awake, not past his bedtime. So that's ruled out. The Lions at 34.
I mean, after what they did to what's his name? Now I just got to deal with Matt
You
Ryan.
mean Kyler?
I was making a Matt Ryan joke.
Okay. Denver's 38 against the Raiders. They're pretty banged up. I feel bad for them at this point.
Yeah.
Although the Raiders are 39 against potentially Drew Lock. Actually, we'd probably just say the Raiders against Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go. Figured that one out. All right. Note to future me, Brandon, if you're talking to Sunday morning Brandon, what are you telling him now after having looked at salaries for week 16?
Don't forget about Mark Andrews, even if it's hard to get to the salary. That's one of the things that really jumps out. And Kelsey and Gronk. But like, I think by Sunday, the easiest thing that probably will happen is I'm saying I need the stud quarterbacks because I don't love the matchups for everyone else. Need the stud running backs. I want those high-end receivers, and I'll just play Jared Cook a lot or something like that. And I want to find ways to improve upon that process already. I
want all your scrubs. I don't know the rest of the words. That's my note to future me. Give me the scrubs. Bring me your Singletaries, your Gabe the Babes, your Rojos. Bring me your scrubs. I will take all of them off.
There's only 3 guys, though. We got to.
What if I use all 3 in every lineup? What if I don't?
mean, I'm just being realistic. It's 3 guys at this point that are really jumping off the page.
Unless
and
who is the other?
And 2 of them are running backs.
Ramondre Stevenson, maybe.
Craig Reynolds in the game of the week.
But like, there are some other like okay-ish receivers in the low 6,000 range, like T65.
Yeah,
he's awesome. I can use that.
Wow,
I know he started to be good. I'll use him now. We're good. We're in good terms.
Although one of the things that jumped out to me was like, oh, we have running backs this week. We really have Eckler and Dalvin Cook at the top. Like James Robinson's oversalaried, Najee's just Najee.
Yeah.
So it's really not.
But like those 2, we can have a lot of confidence in.
Yes, but you know, I kind of joked that we've got three values that we're kind of clinging to at this point. But you know, Eckler and Cook plus those 2 value backs, I think works.
Yeah.
Potentially, it's still somewhat of a receiver flex possibility this week, but
maybe, yeah.
You know,
less so than last week as it sets up right now.
Less so, but yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Things will change before Thursday. Speaking of Thursday, we'll be back here on Thursday at 10 a.m. to get you set for week number 16 on the main slate. That'll be on the FanDuel YouTube page, recording live over there. Shout out to everyone watching YouTube right now. If you're watching there, gently hover over the like button. Consider giving it a tap. If you decide to do so, thank you. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. Hit subscribe as well. We are back today at 4 on the FanDuel YouTube page with Ryan Williams breaking down the 2-game slate for Monday, live at 4, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. So swing by there. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review there as well. Brandon, any final thoughts for you before we close up shop for today?
Keep adjusting.
That's it?
Yeah, keep adjusting. Keep looking into stuff. I know that it's a grind now. I know we got holidays coming up, but the way to maintain leverage is not viewing these players and teams as full season data or even the past 10 weeks, whatever. Look at these recent weeks. Look at these changes and adjust from there.
Yep, absolutely. People have questions for you on Twitter. Where can they find you there?
Oh, they can't really, but. I'm Actadula13, GDULA13.
And I am at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your 2-game slates on Monday and Tuesday. We'll talk to you once again on Thursday to get you set for this week 16. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.